Decision Mastery: How to Make High-Stakes Choices with Absolute Quality. A motivational audiobook by the Protocols of Astrian. Before we start, if you ever feel like you are walking through fog alone, hit subscribe and let these audiobooks be your quiet companion through every season. Have you ever looked back at a moment in your life and wondered how everything changed so fast? That job you took, the person you married, the city you moved to, it all came down to a single point in time where you had to choose. Life is really just a collection of these moments, strung together like beads on a string. Some choices feel small and easy, like what to eat for lunch or what show to watch. But others carry weight, and they shape the entire direction of your path ahead. Those are the high-stakes decisions, and they can feel terrifying because the outcome matters so much. You might lie awake at night turning them over in your mind, afraid to pick wrong. This book was written for those moments, to be your guide when the pressure is on and the answer is not clear. The truth is that decision-making is not a talent you are born with, but a skill you can build just like a muscle. Most people never learn how to do it well, so they guess, they follow the crowd, or they freeze up completely. But you are different because you picked up this book, and that means you are ready to take control. Imagine walking into any big choice with a calm mind and a clear plan, knowing exactly what steps to take. Imagine feeling excited instead of scared when life puts a fork in the road in front of you. That is what decision mastery feels like, and it is closer than you think. We are going to walk through this together, step by step, and by the end you will never face a big decision the same way again. Your story is still being written, and the next great chapter starts with the choice you make right now. Chapter 1: Why Smart People Sometimes Make Dumb Choices. You have probably met people who are brilliant in every way, yet their lives are a mess because of the decisions they keep making. This happens all the time, and it is not because they lack intelligence, but because their brain plays tricks on them when they are not looking. Your mind has hidden traps that were built long ago to help your ancestors survive in the wild, not to help you navigate modern life. One of the biggest traps is called ego, and it makes you stick to a bad choice just because you already said you would. Another trap is fear, which shouts louder than any other voice and makes you run from risks that might actually save you. There is also something called confirmation bias, where you only look for information that proves you are already right. These traps are sneaky, and they work best when you are tired, stressed, or in a hurry. The good news is that once you learn their names, you can spot them before they catch you. Imagine you are driving down a road and there is a huge pothole right in the middle, but you cannot see it because you are looking at your phone. That is what these mental traps do. They distract you while the pothole is waiting to swallow you up. When you make a decision from a place of ego, you are not really deciding based on what is best, but on what makes you look good to yourself and others. When you decide from fear, you are letting a future that has not even happened yet control your present moment. These traps feel like instincts, so you follow them without ever questioning whether they are right for this situation. But instincts are just patterns from the past, and your past does not always know what your future needs. The first step to mastering your choices is to slow down just enough to notice what is really driving you. Are you choosing based on what serves you, or are you just reacting to a trap your brain set for you? Think about a time when you knew the right answer, but you chose the wrong one anyway because it felt easier in the moment. That is the ego trap again, because admitting you were wrong feels worse than staying wrong forever for some people. Your brain actually releases stress chemicals when you face the possibility of being wrong, so it pushes you toward comfort instead. This is why smart people stay in bad relationships, bad jobs, and bad habits long after they know they should leave. They keep telling themselves stories about why staying is okay, and they filter out all the evidence that says otherwise. But here is the truth that will set you free. Being wrong about a choice does not make you a failure. It just makes you human. The real failure is staying wrong because you were too proud to change your mind. Great decision makers are not people who are always right. They are people who are brave enough to admit when they are not. Have you ever noticed how your brain feels calmer when you agree with people around you, even if they are wrong? That is called social proof, and it is another trap that tricks smart people into making terrible choices. When everyone is nodding and saying the same thing, your brain assumes it must be safe and correct without doing its own work. This is how whole groups of smart people end up making decisions that ruin companies, families, and even countries. You want to belong, you want to fit in, and that desire can override your own judgment without you even realizing it. The key is to value being right more than you value being liked, at least when the stakes are high. You do not have to be rude about it, but you have to be willing to stand alone if that is where the truth lives. The greatest breakthroughs in history came from people who chose what was right over what was popular. There is another trap that waits for you after you make a choice, and it is called the sunk cost fallacy. This happens when you keep pouring time, money, or energy into something just because you already put so much in. Imagine you buy a ticket to a movie, and 10 minutes in you realize it is terrible, but you stay because you already paid. That is the sunk cost trap, and it makes you waste the rest of your evening on a bad movie you cannot get back. In life, this looks like staying in a career you hate because you spent years getting the degree for it. It looks like holding onto a failing project because you have already worked so hard on it, even though leaving would save you. The trap convinces you that quitting means losing what you already invested, but that money and time are gone either way. The real question is whether you want to lose your future too, or whether you want to cut your losses and walk free. Let us talk about what happens inside your body when you face a big decision, because it matters more than you think. Your heart beats faster, your palms get sweaty, and your mind starts racing through worst-case scenarios like a movie you cannot stop. This is your fight or flight response kicking in, and it was designed to save you from tigers, not to help you choose a career path. When you are in this state, your brain literally cannot think clearly because the blood is rushing to your muscles instead. This is why smart people make dumb choices when they are under pressure. Their bodies have taken over the controls. The trick is to recognize this feeling and breathe through it before you decide anything important. You have to tell your body that there is no tiger, that you are safe, and that you need your thinking brain back online. Once you calm the physical response, the mental clarity will follow, and you will see your options much more clearly. The final trap to know about is called the spotlight effect, where you think everyone is watching your every move. This makes you terrified of making a choice that might look bad to others, even if it is the right one for you. You start imagining people talking about you, judging you, and laughing at your mistakes long before you even make them. But here is the secret that will lighten your load. Most people are too busy worrying about their own lives to watch yours that closely. They might notice for a moment, and then they go right back to their own problems and their own fears. Living your life for an audience that is not even paying attention is a recipe for regret and small thinking. The people who matter will support your journey, and the people who judge were never really on your side anyway. Great decisions are made when you stop performing and start living for the one person whose opinion actually counts, which is you. Chapter 2. Stop, Look, and Listen, the Power of the Pause. Imagine you are standing at the edge of a busy street, and cars are flying by in both directions without stopping. If you just ran across without looking, you would be taking a huge risk with your safety and your life. But when big decisions come at you, that is exactly what most people do. They just run straight into them without pausing first. The pause is the simplest tool in this entire book, and yet it is the one people forget to use the most. It costs nothing, takes almost no time, and can save you from years of regret if you just remember to do it. A pause is that moment between something happening and you reacting, where you get to choose what comes next. It is like a secret doorway that appears right before every decision you make. Most people walk right past it, but you are going to learn how to step through. When you pause, you are telling your brain that this moment matters and that you are in charge, not your impulses. Your first reaction to anything is usually a habit, something you have done 1,000 times before without thinking. If someone insults you, your first reaction might be to fire back with something mean. If you see a sale, your first reaction might be to buy things you do not need. These automatic reactions are not decisions at all. They are just programs running in the background of your mind. The pause interrupts those programs and gives you a chance to write a new one that actually serves you. It is like hitting the remote control and pressing pause on a movie so you can go get popcorn. You are not stopping life. You are just taking a moment to prepare for what comes next. Let me tell you what happens inside your brain during that tiny pause, because it is actually magical. Your prefrontal cortex, which is the smart part of your brain, gets a chance to catch up to your emotions. Your emotions react in less than a second, but your logic takes a little longer to arrive at the party. If you do not pause, you make decisions based purely on feelings, and feelings change faster than the weather. But if you wait just a few seconds, your logic shows up and you get to use your full brain power. It is like waiting for both engines of an airplane to start before you try to take off. Flying on one engine might work for a while, but it is risky, and you will not go where you truly want to go. The pause makes sure both engines are running before you commit to the flight. Think about the last argument you had with someone you love, and how different it might have been with just one pause. In the heat of the moment, you say things that you do not really mean, and they say things back that cut even deeper. But what if you had stopped for 3 seconds and taken a breath before you spoke? What if you had asked yourself whether winning this argument was more important than protecting this relationship? That tiny pause could have changed everything, and it still can the next time conflict comes your way. The pause gives you perspective, and perspective is like fresh air in a room that has been closed up too long. You start to see that the other person is hurting too, and that maybe there is a better way through this together. The pause does not make the problem go away, but it makes you strong enough to handle it with grace. There is a reason why every major religion and philosophy teaches some form of meditation or stillness, because they all know the power of the pause. When you sit quietly and just breathe, you are practicing the same muscle you need when decisions get hard. You are teaching yourself that you can exist without reacting, that you can watch your thoughts without letting them drive. This practice builds a gap between stimulus and response, and in that gap is your freedom and your power. You do not have to meditate for hours to get this benefit. Even 1 minute of stillness can change your whole day. The goal is not to empty your mind, but to realize that you are not your thoughts, you are the one watching them. Once you know this, you can choose which thoughts to follow and which to let float away like clouds. Let me give you a practical trick that you can use today, right now, whenever you feel pressure building. When someone asks you a big question or you face a hard choice, just say these words out loud. Let me think about that for a moment. It feels a little awkward at first because we are taught to answer quickly and seem confident. But true confidence is not about speed. It is about knowing that your answer will be solid because you took time to consider it. People will actually respect you more when you pause before speaking, because it shows you take things seriously. You are not stalling. You are honoring the question and the person who asked it by giving them your best self. This one simple phrase can save you from agreeing to things you do not want, buying things you cannot afford, and committing to paths that are not yours. Try it tomorrow and watch how your interactions start to shift. The pause also protects you from what experts call emotional hijacking, where your feelings completely take over your brain. This happens when something triggers you deeply, like a memory from your past or a fear about your future. Suddenly you are not in the present moment anymore. You are reacting to a ghost that only you can see. Your heart races, your voice changes, and you might do things that shock even yourself later. The pause brings you back to the present, back to what is actually happening right now instead of what your mind is projecting. It anchors you in reality when your emotions want to drag you into a storm. From that anchored place, you can make a choice that fits the real situation, not the one your fears invented. This is not about ignoring your feelings. It is about letting them inform you without letting them control you. Chapter 3. Gut V's. Graph listing to your feelings and your facts. For as long as you can remember, people have been telling you to follow your heart or to be logical, as if you had to pick one side. But this is a false choice that leaves you fractured and confused when big decisions come along. Your gut feelings and your facts are not enemies. They are two different languages trying to tell you the same truth. Your gut speaks in sensations, hunches, and physical feelings that you cannot always explain with words. Your facts speak in numbers, patterns, and evidence that you can show to anyone who asks. The problem is that most people only listen to one voice and ignore the other completely. They become all heart and end up in beautiful disasters, or all head and end up in boring prisons. The secret to decision mastery is learning how to translate between these two languages so they can work together. Think about your gut feelings as a warning system that has been built by every experience you have ever had. Your brain is constantly scanning your environment and comparing it to everything you have lived through before. When something feels off, that is your gut saying, "Hey, pay attention. This pattern does not match the ones that worked before." It is not magic. It is your unconscious mind doing math so fast that you cannot see the steps. This is why entrepreneurs sometimes know a deal is bad before they see the numbers, and why you might feel uneasy around someone who seems perfectly nice. Your gut is processing thousands of tiny signals that your conscious mind is too slow to catch. It deserves your respect because it has access to information that your logic cannot reach on its own. But it also deserves to be checked, because your gut can be wrong if your past experiences were twisted or limited. Now let us talk about the graph side, which is all the data and facts you can gather about your situation. This is the part of decision-making that feels safe because you can see it, touch it, and prove it to other people. You can make spreadsheets, read reviews, ask experts, and study the history of people who faced similar choices. This information is gold because it grounds you in reality and stops you from flying away on fantasies. When your gut says this house feels like home, the graph checks whether you can actually afford the payments. When your gut says this person is the one, the graph pays attention to how they treat you when they are tired or angry. Facts keep your feet on the ground so your heart does not float away into a cloud that cannot hold you. But facts also have limits because they can only tell you about the past, and your decision is about the future. The magic happens when you put these two voices in the same room and make them talk to each other. Imagine your gut is a painter who sees the whole picture in colors and feelings, beautiful but fuzzy around the edges. Your facts are the architects who bring rulers and measurements, precise but unable to see why a building should be beautiful at all. Together, they can create something that neither could build alone, a decision that feels right and actually works in the real world. This takes practice because these two voices speak different languages and do not always trust each other at first. Your gut might roll its eyes at the facts for being cold and boring. Your facts might scoff at the gut for being messy and unreliable. But you are the leader here, and your job is to make them sit down and work as a team. When you face a big decision, start by gathering all the facts you can find without rushing to a conclusion yet. Read, ask questions, look at the numbers, and understand what has happened to others in similar situations. Do not judge anything yet, just collect information like you are building a library for later. Then step away from all that data and ask your gut what it thinks, without trying to prove anything. Sit quietly and imagine each option, and notice what your body does when you think about them. Does your stomach tighten or relax? Does your breathing get shallow or deep? Do your shoulders lift or drop? These physical signals are your gut talking, and they matter just as much as any spreadsheet. Write down what you feel and what you found, and then look for where they agree and where they clash. When your gut and your facts disagree, that is not a problem. It is a clue that you need to dig deeper. Maybe your gut is picking up on something your facts missed, like a vibe from a person that the resume did not show. Maybe your facts are revealing something your gut does not want to face, like that your dream job pays too little to live on. The disagreement is an invitation to ask better questions and find more information that bridges the gap. Talk to more people, sit with the feelings longer, and let both sides present their case fully. Often you will find that they were pointing to the same thing all along, just in different ways. The decision that feels right and makes sense is the one you will never regret, even if it gets hard later. That is the sweet spot where mastery lives, and you can only find it by honoring both voices. There is one more piece to this puzzle that most people miss, and it is about learning to trust yourself over time. Every time you make a decision and look back at how it turned out, you get a chance to calibrate your inner compass. You start to notice patterns, like when your gut was right even though the facts looked bad, or when the facts saved you from a gut feeling that was just fear in disguise. Over months and years, you build a relationship with yourself that is deeper than any advice anyone else can give you. You become the expert on your own life, and you learn which voice to lean on more in different situations. This is the quiet confidence that other people notice and admire, the calm of someone who knows how to decide. It does not come from being perfect. It comes from paying attention and learning from every choice you make. Your gut and your graph are both yours, and when they work together, you become unstoppable. Chapter 4. The Future You Test asking what the older, wiser you would do. Imagine yourself 10 years from now, sitting in a comfortable chair and looking back at the person you are today. That future version of you has lived through everything that is about to happen, the struggles and the joys, the wins and the losses. They know how your story turned out because they have already walked the path that you are just starting now. Now imagine that they could lean forward and whisper some advice to you in this moment. What would they say? Would they tell you to take the risk or play it safe, to speak up or stay quiet, to hold on or let go? This is not just a daydream. It is one of the most powerful tools you have for making decisions right now. The future you is wiser, calmer, and free from the fear that grips you today. All you have to do is ask them what to do and then listen closely for the answer. The reason this trick works so well is that it lifts you out of the tiny box of right now and gives you perspective. When you are in the middle of a hard choice, everything feels enormous and urgent, like the whole world depends on getting this one thing right. Your problems loom so large that they block out the sun and you cannot see anything else. But when you jump forward 10 years and look back, that same problem shrinks down to its real size. You can see that this moment is just one scene in a long movie, not the whole story. You realize that even if you make a mistake, you will survive it and learn from it and keep going. The future you knows that most of what you are stressing about today will not even matter a decade from now. That perspective alone can calm you down enough to think clearly and choose wisely. Let us try a quick exercise together so you can feel how this works in real time. Think about a decision you are facing right now, something that has been weighing on your mind and keeping you up at night. Got it? Good. Now close your eyes and imagine you are 10 years older, sitting in a peaceful place where you often go to think. You have gray hair now, or maybe less hair, and your face has lines from years of laughing and living. Look back at this moment, at the younger you standing at this crossroads, and ask yourself what advice you would give. Would the older you say go for it, or would they say be careful, or would they say it does not matter as much as you think? Whatever answer comes, even if it is just a feeling, that is wisdom trying to reach you across time. Trust it, because it comes from a version of you that has already lived through the consequences. One of the saddest things in life is reaching the end of a road and realizing you took the wrong turn because of temporary fear. People look back and wish they had taken more chances, spoken more truth, and spent more time on what really mattered. The future you knows exactly what you will regret and what you will celebrate when you get to where they are sitting. They know that the embarrassment you feel today will be forgotten tomorrow, but the courage you find today will echo forever. They know that the money you are scared to spend will come back, but the experience you miss will never return. They know that the rejection you fear will heal, but the rejection of your own dreams will leave a scar that lasts. By asking the future you for advice, you are tapping into that knowledge before it is too late to use it. You are giving yourself the gift of hindsight before you make the choice, instead of after. This tool also helps you separate what is truly important from what just feels important because of pressure. Right now, you might be worried about what your boss thinks, what your neighbors will say, or whether you look good to strangers on the internet. These worries feel real and heavy when you are carrying them around every day. But take yourself forward 10 years and ask whether any of those people will still be in your life, or whether their opinions will matter at all. The future you knows that most of those voices are just background noise that fades with time. What remains is how you felt about yourself, whether you lived with integrity, and whether you loved the people who loved you back. The future you cares about those things deeply and will guide you toward them if you let them. Let the opinions of strangers dissolve in the face of your own long-term peace. There is something beautiful that happens when you start making decisions based on what your future self would want. You begin to act like the person you are becoming, not just the person you have been up until now. You stop settling for things that are easy but empty, and you start reaching for things that are hard but meaningful. You invest in your health because the future you wants a strong body to enjoy those later years. You invest in your relationships because the future you wants people around the table at holidays. You take career risks because the future you wants to look back on a life of purpose, not just a life of safety. Every choice becomes a building block for the person you are growing into, and that person is watching you right now. They are cheering for you, hoping you will be brave enough to build them a life they can be proud of. The final gift of this practice is that it reminds you that you are not stuck being who you are today. You are always changing, always growing, and always one decision away from a new direction. The person you were 5 years ago made choices based on what they knew then, and you have probably outgrown some of those choices by now. The person you will be in 5 years is waiting for you to make choices that honor their wisdom and their dreams. When you ask what the future you would do, you are stepping into that growth right now instead of waiting for time to force it on you. You are claiming your future self as your ally and your guide, not just a destination you will reach someday. This changes everything, because suddenly you are not alone in the decision. You have a wise friend who loves you and knows exactly what you need, and that friend has always been you. Chapter 5. Expand your menu. Why yes or no is almost always the wrong question. Most people walk through life thinking they only have 2 choices, yes or no, do it or do not, stay or go. They trap themselves in this tiny box and then wonder why they feel stuck and frustrated all the time. But the truth is that between yes and no, there is a whole universe of other options waiting to be discovered. You just have to stop long enough to look for them instead of accepting the first 2 that appear. Imagine going to a restaurant and the waiter says you can have steak or you can have nothing. You would never accept that. You would ask what else is on the menu. What about chicken or fish or pasta? Life is the same way, but most people forget to ask for the full menu when decisions get hard. They settle for steak or nothing when there is a feast of possibilities hiding just out of sight. The reason we fall into this trap is that our brains love simplicity and hate complexity, especially when we are stressed. When you are under pressure, your mind looks for the quickest way out, and that usually means picking between whatever options are right in front of you. It feels like progress to choose A or B, even if neither one is actually good for you. But choosing between 2 bad options is not a win, it is just picking which poison to swallow. The real win is finding option C that you had not considered yet, the one that actually solves your problem without the side effects. This takes more work and more creativity, but that work is what separates decision masters from everyone else. They know that the first 2 options are just the beginning of the conversation, not the end. Let me give you a real example so you can see how this works in practice. Imagine you hate your job and you think your only choices are to quit or to stay and be miserable. Both of those options feel terrible. Quitting is scary and staying is soul-crushing, so you just stay stuck. But if you pause and ask for more options, a whole new world opens up. Could you ask for a different role inside the same company? Could you start a side business while you keep your paycheck? Could you go back to school part-time to prepare for something new? Could you talk to your boss about changing your responsibilities? Suddenly, you have 5 options instead of 2, and some of them might actually feel good. You are not trapped anymore because you expanded your menu, and that changes everything about how you feel. This skill of expanding your options is like a muscle that gets stronger the more you use it. At first it feels awkward, and you might draw a blank when you try to think of new possibilities. But if you keep practicing, your brain starts to see choices everywhere that you missed before. You can ask other people for ideas because they see your situation from angles you cannot. You can look at what other people did when they faced similar problems and borrow their solutions. You can brainstorm the wildest options without judging them, because sometimes a crazy idea leads to a practical one. The goal is not to find the perfect option right away. It is to give yourself more than 2 so you are not forced into a corner. More options mean more freedom, and more freedom means better decisions. There is a hidden benefit to expanding your menu that goes beyond just having more choices. The process of looking for options actually calms your brain down because it feels like progress instead of panic. When you are stuck between 2 bad choices, your brain spins in circles and stress levels go through the roof. But when you start generating possibilities, even silly ones, your brain shifts into problem-solving mode and the panic fades. You are no longer a victim of your circumstances. You are a creator exploring your options. This feeling of control is precious because it lets you think clearly instead of just reacting. You start to see that there is always a way forward, even if you have not found it yet. That hope alone is enough to carry you through the hardest moments. Think about the biggest decisions in your life so far, the ones that shaped who you are today. How many of them felt like you were choosing between 2 doors and you just picked one and hoped for the best? Now imagine if you had stopped and looked for a 3rd door, or a 4th, or a window you could climb through. Maybe there was a path you never even considered because no one told you it existed. Maybe the best choice was hiding in plain sight, waiting for you to notice it. The good news is that you can start right now, with whatever decision is in front of you today. Refuse to accept a menu with only 2 items. Demand to see the full list before you order. You might be surprised at what shows up when you finally ask the right question, which is not yes or no, but what else is possible. Chapter 6. The 10-10-10 Rule: Seeing Through the Fog. There is a reason why big decisions feel so heavy and confusing. It is because you are standing too close to them. When your face is pressed against a painting, you cannot see anything but blurry colors and strange shapes. You have to step back across the room to see the whole picture, to understand what the artist was really trying to say. The 10-10-10 rule is your way of stepping back from any decision so you can see it clearly. It is simple but powerful. You ask yourself how you will feel about this choice in 10 minutes, 10 months, and 10 years. These 3 questions cut through the fog of the moment and show you what really matters. They give you perspective when your emotions are trying to trap you in a tiny box. Let us start with the first question: how will you feel about this in 10 minutes? This might seem like a short time, but it is long enough for the immediate rush to settle down. When you make a choice, especially a hard one, there is often an instant reaction that hits you right away. You might feel relief, regret, excitement, or fear, all crashing over you like a wave. The 10-minute question acknowledges that these feelings are real and they matter, but they are also temporary. You are not going to stay in that first reaction forever, and you should not make that reaction the boss of you. By imagining yourself 10 minutes later, you give yourself permission to feel whatever comes without letting it run your life. You are just checking in, not signing a contract with that emotion forever. The second question is where things get really interesting. How will you feel about this in 10 months? 10 months is enough time for the newness to wear off and for reality to set in. The excitement of a new job has faded into the daily routine. The relief of ending a relationship has given way to the loneliness of being alone. But also the fear of starting something new has turned into the pride of having tried, and the discomfort of a hard conversation has become the peace of clear air. 10 months gives you enough distance to see whether this choice was just a flash in the pan or something with real staying power. It helps you separate what feels good right now from what will actually be good for you later. This is the question that saves you from chasing highs that leave you empty when they fade. Now the third question is the heavyweight champion. How will you feel about this in 10 years? 10 years is enough time for your whole life to change direction, for you to become someone almost unrecognizable to who you are today. When you look back from that distance, the small annoyances and temporary embarrassments have completely dissolved. What remains is the shape of your life, the big patterns, the lasting relationships, the work that mattered, the love you gave and received. The 10-year question asks whether this choice builds a life you will be proud to look back on. It asks whether you will thank yourself for being brave or curse yourself for playing small. This is the question that connects you to your deepest values and reminds you what you are really here for. Let us walk through an example together so you can feel how these questions work in real life. Imagine you are thinking about ending a relationship that has been making you unhappy for a long time. In 10 minutes, you might feel a rush of fear and loneliness, wondering if you made a terrible mistake. In 10 months, you might be settled into a new routine, maybe lonely sometimes but also free from the daily weight of unhappiness. In 10 years, you might look back and see that this painful choice cleared the way for something beautiful you could not have found otherwise. Now imagine you are thinking about whether to speak up about something unfair at work. In 10 minutes, you might feel shaky and embarrassed, worrying about what people think. In 10 months, you might have earned respect for your courage, or you might have moved on to a better place. In 10 years, you will barely remember the awkward moment, but you will carry the self-respect of having stood up for yourself forever. The 10-10-10 rule also protects you from two of the biggest enemies of good decisions, which are impulsiveness and procrastination. Impulsiveness makes you focus only on the 10-minute feeling, the rush of doing something exciting without thinking about the 10-month consequences. Procrastination makes you so afraid of the 10-minute discomfort that you never get to the 10-year rewards. Both of these traps keep you stuck in the present moment, unable to see the bigger picture. But when you force yourself to think across all three time frames, you balance yourself out. You give the present its due without letting it dominate the conversation. You honor the future without letting it terrify you into doing nothing. This balance is where wise decisions are born. There is one more gift that this practice offers, and it is the gift of self-awareness over time. As you use the 10-10-10 rule again and again, you start to notice patterns in how you think and feel. You might realize that you always overestimate how bad you will feel in 10 minutes, or that you underestimate how much 10 months can change things. You might discover that your 10-year self cares about different things than you expected, and that changes how you decide today. This is not about getting it right every time. It is about learning who you are and what you truly value. The more you practice, the more your decisions will align with the life you actually want to live. The fog will never disappear completely, but you will learn to see through it with eyes that know what to look for. Chapter 7. Building your personal board of advisors. Imagine having a team of the wisest people you know, sitting around a table, ready to help you with any decision you face. They are not there to tell you what to do, but to ask the right questions and share perspectives you might have missed. This team could include people from your real life, like a mentor who always seems to know what to say. It could also include people you have never met, like a historical figure you admire or a character from a book who inspired you. The best part is that you do not need to schedule a meeting or pay anyone a fee, because this board exists entirely in your mind. You can consult them anytime, anywhere, just by imagining what they would say about your situation. This is one of the most creative and powerful tools in your decision-making toolbox. The first step is to choose who sits on your personal board of advisors, and you get to pick anyone you want. Think about the people in your life who have shown wisdom, kindness, or strength when you needed it most. Maybe it is a grandparent who always seemed calm no matter what was happening around them. Maybe it is a teacher who believed in you when you did not believe in yourself, or a friend who tells you the truth even when it hurts. Now think beyond your immediate circle. Who else would you want on your team if you could have anyone? You might choose a leader like Nelson Mandela for his forgiveness, or an artist like Maya Angelou for her way with words. You might even choose a fictional character like Atticus Finch for his quiet courage, or Yoda for his strange but deep wisdom. The point is not that these people are perfect, but that they represent qualities you want more of in your own life. Once you have built your board, the next step is learning how to consult them when decisions get hard. You do not need to do anything complicated. Just sit quietly and imagine them in the room with you. Picture what they look like, how they sit, the expressions on their faces as they listen to you talk. Then explain your situation to them out loud or in your mind, telling them everything you are worried about and everything you are hoping for. After you finish, pause and imagine what each one might say in response. Let their voices come to you without forcing it, and notice what feelings and ideas arise as they speak. Sometimes the answers will surprise you, coming from a place inside yourself that you did not know existed. This is not magic. It is you tapping into your own wisdom by giving it different faces and voices. Let me give you an example of how this might work in a real situation. Suppose you are trying to decide whether to leave a stable job and start your own business, and you are terrified of failing. You could call a meeting of your board and explain the situation to them. Your grandparent might remind you that you have survived hard things before and that you are stronger than you think. Your favorite author might tell you that the real failure would be never trying, that a life without risk is not really a life at all. Your mentor from work might point out practical steps you could take to reduce the risk, like saving more money first or testing your idea part-time. Each voice adds a layer to your understanding, and together they help you see the whole picture. You do not have to agree with all of them, but listening to them all helps you decide with more clarity and confidence. There is something powerful about giving your inner wisdom different voices and personalities. When you just sit alone with your thoughts, they can feel jumbled and overwhelming, like a crowd all shouting at once. But when you assign those thoughts to different advisors, they become clearer and easier to sort through. You can hear the voice of caution from your practical friend and the voice of courage from your adventurous hero without them fighting each other. You can weigh them against each other and decide which one deserves more weight in this particular situation. This process turns confusion into conversation, and conversation leads to clarity. You start to realize that you already have all the wisdom you need inside you. It just needed a way to organize itself. Another benefit of this practice is that it connects you to values and perspectives that might be missing from your daily life. If you spend all your time around people who think like you do, your thinking can get narrow and stuck. But when you invite historical figures or characters from books onto your board, you bring in voices from different times and places. You get to see your problem through the eyes of someone who lived through a war, or someone who created beauty out of suffering, or someone who stood alone against injustice. These perspectives stretch you and show you possibilities you would never have found on your own. They remind you that your problems, while real and hard, are part of a bigger human story. And that reminder can give you strength when you feel small and alone. Over time, your personal board of advisors becomes more real to you, and consulting them becomes a habit you look forward to. You might find yourself automatically wondering what they would say as you go through your day. You might add new members as you encounter new heroes or face new kinds of challenges. You might even notice that you start to internalize their voices, so that their wisdom becomes part of your own thinking without you having to call a formal meeting. This is the goal, not to depend on imaginary figures forever, but to absorb their qualities until they become yours. You are building yourself into the person you most want to be, one decision at a time. And your board is there to guide you, support you, and celebrate you every step of the way. Chapter 8. The Fear Factor: Making Friends with Your Doubts. Fear shows up at the door of every big decision, and most people try to slam the door in its face. They pretend they are not scared, they push the feeling down, and they hope it will just go away on its own. But fear is not an enemy that you can defeat by ignoring it. It is more like a guard dog that is trying to protect you. The problem is that this guard dog cannot tell the difference between a real threat and a new opportunity. It barks just as loudly when you are about to be attacked as when you are about to grow. Your job is not to get rid of the dog, but to learn what it is trying to tell you and then decide whether to listen. When you befriend your fear instead of fighting it, you take away its power to control you. You turn a screaming alarm into a quiet piece of information that you can use. The first thing to understand about fear is that it lives in your body, not just in your mind. When you are afraid, your shoulders tense up, your stomach churns, your heart races, and your breathing gets shallow. These physical sensations are real, and they happen before your thinking brain even knows what is going on. This is why you cannot just talk yourself out of fear with logic alone, because your body is already in a different state. You have to address the body first by breathing deeply, by moving, by relaxing your muscles on purpose. Once your body calms down, your mind can start to think more clearly about what is actually happening. The fear does not disappear, but it becomes manageable, like a loud radio that you have turned down to background noise. From that calmer place, you can ask what the fear is really trying to tell you. Fear usually comes in a few different flavors, and each one has a different message if you listen closely. There is the fear of loss, which says you might lose something you already have, like your security or your relationships. There is the fear of failure, which says you might try and not succeed, and that would hurt your pride. There is the fear of judgment, which says other people might think less of you if you make the wrong choice. There is even the fear of success, which whispers that if you get what you want, you might not be able to handle it. Each of these fears is pointing to something you care about, something that matters to you deeply. Instead of letting the fear stop you, you can use it to clarify what you value and what you need to protect. The fear becomes a map that shows you where your heart is really invested. Let us take the fear of failure as an example, because it is one of the most common and most paralyzing fears there is. You want to start something new, but you are terrified that you will not be good enough and everyone will see you fall. This fear feels like a wall in front of you, blocking your path and telling you to stay where it is safe. But if you befriend that fear and ask it questions, you might learn something useful. You might realize that you are afraid of failing because this thing really matters to you, and if it did not matter, you would not care at all. The fear is actually proof that you are alive and reaching for something meaningful. It is not a stop sign. It is a sign that you are on the right track, because the right track always comes with risk. People who feel no fear are not brave. They are either asleep or already dead inside. There is another secret about fear that most people never learn, which is that action is the only thing that truly dissolves it. You can think about your fear, talk about your fear, and analyze your fear all day long, and it will still be there waiting for you. But the moment you take one small step toward the thing you are afraid of, the fear starts to shrink. It is like a shadow that looks huge when you are far away, but as you walk toward it, you realize it was just a trick of the light. Every step you take gives you information, and information replaces fear with understanding. You learn that the worst-case scenario was not as bad as you imagined, or that you are stronger than you thought you were. Action proves to your body that you can survive, and your body slowly learns to trust you again. This is why courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision that something else is more important than fear. Think about the times in your life when you felt the most fear, and then think about what happened after you walked through it. Maybe it was the first day of a new school, or a job interview, or a difficult conversation you had been putting off. In the moment, the fear felt enormous, like it might swallow you whole. But after it was over, you probably wondered what you were so scared of, because it turned out fine, or at least you survived. Your brain has a habit of overestimating threats and underestimating your ability to handle them. This is a leftover from ancient times when overestimating a threat could save your life. But in modern life, this habit mostly just holds you back from things that would make you happier and stronger. Every time you face a fear and come out the other side, you teach your brain a new lesson, that you can handle more than it thinks you can. The goal is not to become fearless, because that is impossible and also not desirable. A life without fear would be a life without love, without risk, without growth, without anything that really matters. The goal is to have a relationship with fear where you are the one in charge, not the other way around. You acknowledge fear when it shows up, you listen to what it has to say, and then you decide whether to follow its advice or go a different way. Sometimes fear is right, and you should pay attention because there is real danger ahead. But most of the time, fear is just crying wolf, sounding the alarm about things that are not actually threats. Learning to tell the difference is a skill that takes practice, but it is a skill that will set you free. You will start to see fear not as a wall but as a doorway, and you will walk through it again and again. Chapter 9. The cost of waiting when not deciding is the worst decision. There is a hidden choice that you make every single day without even realizing it, and it is the choice to not choose. When you put off a decision, when you wait for more information, when you hope the problem will solve itself, you are still making a choice. You are choosing to let life happen to you instead of making life happen for you. This is dangerous because time does not stop while you are waiting. It keeps moving and things keep changing. The job you did not apply for goes to someone else. The conversation you did not have turns into a broken relationship. The dream you did not chase slowly fades away. Indecision feels safe because you are not taking a risk, but it is actually one of the biggest risks of all. You are betting that waiting will make things better, but most of the time, waiting just makes things worse. Think about why you wait when you know you should decide, because understanding the reason is the first step to changing it. Sometimes you wait because you are afraid of making the wrong choice, so you think more information will protect you. But there is always more information you could gather, and you could spend your whole life gathering it and still not know everything. Sometimes you wait because you are hopping for a perfect option that does not exist, so you hold out for something that will never come. Sometimes you wait because you are tired, and deciding feels like work, so you put it off until tomorrow. Whatever the reason, waiting is a habit that keeps you stuck in place while the world moves on without you. The cost of waiting is not just the opportunities you miss, it is the slow drain of your own energy and hope. Let us look at what happens inside you when you put off a big decision for too long. At first, it might feel like relief because you have taken the pressure off yourself for a little while. But soon that relief turns into a low hum of anxiety that follows you everywhere you go. The decision is still there, lurking in the back of your mind, stealing your attention and your peace. You cannot fully enjoy your life because part of you is always aware of the choice you are avoiding. This leak of energy affects your sleep, your relationships, your work, everything you do. It is like having a phone in your pocket that keeps buzzing but you never check it, and the buzzing never stops. The only way to make it stop is to pick up the phone and deal with whatever is on the other end. Making a decision, even an imperfect one, is better than living with that endless buzz forever. There is a concept called opportunity cost that explains why waiting is so expensive in a concrete way. Every moment you spend not deciding is a moment you could have spent moving forward on the path you eventually choose. If you wait 6 months to start a business, that is 6 months of learning, growing, and earning that you will never get back. If you wait 6 months to have a hard conversation, that is 6 more months of tension and distance in a relationship that matters to you. Time is the only resource you cannot make more of, and every day you wait is a day you are spending without getting anything in return. The decision you are avoiding is not going to get easier with time. It usually gets harder because the stakes grow while your options shrink. Waiting is not free. It costs you your most precious asset, and you never even see the bill. Think about the best decisions you have made in your life, the ones that turned out well and made you proud. Did they come from months of agonizing and waiting, or did they come from a moment where you just decided to move? Usually, the best choices come from a place of clarity and action, not from endless deliberation. You gathered what information you could, you listened to your gut, and then you took a leap. The leap was scary, but it was also exciting, and it set things in motion that you could not have predicted. Even if it did not work out perfectly, you learned things that made your next decision better. Action creates momentum, and momentum creates opportunities that you cannot see from a standstill. Waiting keeps you standing still forever, but deciding, even imperfectly, starts the car moving down the road. There is one more reason why waiting is so dangerous, and it has to do with the way your brain handles uncertainty. Uncertainty is stressful, and your brain hates stress, so it tries to resolve uncertainty as fast as possible. When you avoid a decision, you are creating a state of prolonged uncertainty that your brain has to carry all the time. This drains your mental energy and makes you more likely to make bad choices in other areas of your life. It is like running a computer program in the background that uses up all your memory, so everything else runs slow and crashes. The only way to free up that mental space is to make the decision and close the program, even if the decision is not perfect. Your brain needs closure to move on to the next thing, and you need your brain working well to handle everything else life throws at you. Give yourself the gift of closure, even when it is scary, and feel the relief of a mind that is finally free. Chapter 10. The Good Enough Principle, ESCAPING, the Trap of Perfect. Somewhere along the way, you might have picked up the idea that your choices have to be perfect to be worthwhile. You think that if you cannot find the ideal job, the ideal partner, the ideal path, then you should just keep waiting. This idea sounds noble, like you are holding out for the best, but it is actually a trap that keeps you stuck forever. Perfection does not exist in the real world. It is a fantasy that your mind creates to protect you from the risk of being wrong. While you are waiting for perfect, good enough passes you by, and good enough is usually plenty to build a beautiful life. The good enough principle says that you do not need the best option, you just need an option that works and gets you moving. Once you are moving, you can adjust, improve, and find better along the way. A good decision made today is almost always better than a perfect decision made never. Think about how this plays out in everyday life, using something as simple as choosing a restaurant. You could spend hours reading reviews, comparing menus, and checking prices to find the absolute best place to eat. By the time you finally decide, you are starving, cranky, and the whole experience is ruined. Or you could pick a place that looks pretty good, go eat, and have a nice time even if it was not the best meal of your life. The same logic applies to big decisions, just with higher stakes. You can spend years looking for the perfect career, or you can pick one that seems interesting and start learning. You can spend years looking for the perfect partner, or you can open your heart to someone who is good and kind and see where it goes. The search for perfect keeps you in your head, but the choice for good enough gets you into your life. There is a reason why perfectionism is so common among smart, ambitious people, and it is not a good reason. Perfectionism is actually a defense mechanism that protects you from criticism and failure. If you never choose, no one can say you chose wrong, and you never have to face the pain of being wrong. But this protection comes at a huge cost, because you also never get to experience the joy of being right. You never get to feel the pride of building something, the warmth of a relationship, the satisfaction of a risk that paid off. Perfectionism keeps you safe in a prison of your own making, while the real world happens outside the walls. The good enough principle is the key that unlocks that prison door and lets you step out into the messy, beautiful, unpredictable world where life actually happens. Let us talk about what good enough actually means, because it is not about settling for something terrible. Good enough means that the choice meets your core needs and moves you in the right direction, even if it is not flawless. If you are choosing a job, good enough means it pays your bills, uses your skills, and does not make you miserable. It does not have to be your dream job with the perfect boss and unlimited vacation days. If you are choosing a place to live, good enough means it is safe, affordable, and has the space you need. It does not have to be your forever home with the perfect kitchen and the garden you always wanted. Good enough leaves room for growth and change, because you will not be the same person in 5 years anyway. The things that seem essential today might not even matter to you tomorrow, so why wait for them today? One of the best things about the good enough principle is that it gets you into the game, and once you are in the game, you can learn. You cannot learn how to be a good partner without being in a relationship. You cannot learn how to be a good parent without having a child. You cannot learn how to run a business without starting one. All the research and planning in the world cannot replace the education that comes from actually doing something. When you make a good enough choice and start moving, you get feedback from reality that tells you what is working and what is not. You can adjust as you go, making small changes that gradually improve your situation. This is how masterpieces are actually made, not in one perfect stroke, but in thousands of small adjustments over time. A painting is not born perfect. It is painted, evaluated, and painted again until it feels right. There is freedom in letting go of perfect, a lightness that comes from no longer carrying the weight of impossible standards. You can make a choice without agonizing for weeks, because you know that good enough is okay. You can try things and fail without that failure meaning anything about your worth as a person. You can learn and grow and change your mind, because none of your choices have to be forever. This freedom is not about being careless. It is about being realistic about how life actually works. Life is not a test where you get one chance to get everything right. Life is a practice, a series of experiments, a long conversation between you and the world. The good enough principle lets you join that conversation instead of standing outside listening forever. So pick something that is good enough, take a breath, and start living. Chapter 11. The Exit Ram Knowing When to Pivot. There is a myth that once you make a decision, you have to stick with it forever no matter what. This myth keeps people trapped in bad jobs, bad relationships, and bad situations long after they know it is time to leave. The truth is that decisions are not tattoos, they are more like directions on a map. You can choose a path, walk for a while, and then realize it is not taking you where you want to go. When that happens, the wise thing to do is not to keep walking out of stubbornness, but to find a new path. This is what we call the exit ramp, the moment when you recognize that a change is needed and you give yourself permission to make it. Knowing when to pivot is just as important as knowing how to decide in the first place. In fact, it is a sign of strength, not weakness, to change your mind when new information arrives. The first challenge is recognizing when it is time to take the exit ramp, because our brains try to hide the signs from us. You might notice that you are dreading things you used to enjoy, or that you are making excuses for why things are not working. You might feel a constant low-level exhaustion that never goes away, no matter how much you rest. You might find yourself daydreaming about other lives, other paths, other versions of yourself that you could have been. These are all signals that your current direction is not serving you anymore, and it is time to at least consider a change. The problem is that these signals start quietly, like a whisper, and they only get louder if you ignore them. By the time they become a shout, you have usually wasted months or years that you could have spent building something better. Learning to listen to the whispers is a skill that will save you so much pain. Once you notice the signals, the next step is to deal with the guilt and fear that come with thinking about a change. You might feel like you are letting people down, or that you are a quitter, or that you have wasted time and should just stick it out. These feelings are normal, but they are also lies that keep you stuck. You are not letting people down by choosing what is right for you. You are modeling courage and self-respect. You are not a quitter. You are someone smart enough to know when a path is not working and brave enough to find a new one. The time you spent was not wasted. It was tuition for the education of learning what you do not want. Every exit ramp leads to something new, and you cannot get to the new without leaving the old behind. Give yourself grace for wanting to change, because change is how you grow. There is a practical side to taking an exit ramp that matters just as much as the emotional side. You do not have to jump off a cliff into the unknown. You can build a ramp that leads smoothly to your next destination. This might mean saving money before you quit a job, or having a conversation before you end a relationship, or starting a small side project before you leave your career entirely. The goal is not to stay stuck because you are scared, but to move wisely, with preparation and intention. An exit ramp is not a sudden drop. It is a gradual way to change direction while keeping yourself safe. You can test the waters, gather resources, and build a bridge to your next chapter while you are still standing in this one. This takes patience and planning, but it also takes the courage to admit that you are ready for something different. Think about some of the most successful people you know or have heard about and look closely at their stories. Almost all of them have a moment where they pivoted, where they left something that was not working to try something new. They did not see it as failure, they saw it as feedback, information that helped them get closer to what was meant for them. Thomas Edison did not fail at making a light bulb 1,000 times. He found 1,000 ways that did not work, and each one brought him closer to the one that did. Your life is the same. Every exit ramp is just a step on the path to where you are really supposed to be. The only true failure is staying on a path that you know is wrong because you are too afraid to admit it. The exit ramp is not a sign of defeat. It is a sign of wisdom, and it is always available when you need it. There is freedom in knowing that you have the power to pivot whenever you need to. It means that no decision is final, no path is permanent, and no mistake is unforgivable. You can try things, learn from them, and then try something else, over and over, for your whole life. This is not a weakness. It is the very essence of being alive and growing. The people who seem to have it all figured out are not people who never changed their minds. They are people who learn to change their minds gracefully. They know that life is a process of continuous adjustment, like sailing a boat where you have to tack back and forth to reach your destination. The wind changes, the currents shift, and you adjust your sails accordingly. You are the captain of your own ship, and the exit ramp is just a new heading that will take you where you truly want to go. Chapter 12. Your Decision Journal, Keeping Score of Your Wins and Lessons. Imagine trying to get better at a sport without ever keeping score or watching replays of your games. You would just play the same way over and over, making the same mistakes, never knowing what was working and what was not. This is how most people go through life with their decisions. They make them, forget them, and never learn from them. But you can do better by starting something simple but powerful, a decision journal. This is just a notebook where you write down your important choices, what you were thinking when you made them, and how they turned out over time. It is your personal record of wins and lessons, a tool that turns experience into wisdom. With a decision journal, you stop guessing about whether you are getting better and start knowing for sure. You become a student of your own life, and that is how mastery is built. The first step is to get yourself a notebook. Any notebook will do, and commit to writing in it when big decisions come up. You do not have to write about every little choice, just the ones that matter, the ones that could shape your path. When a decision is in front of you, write down the date and describe the situation as clearly as you can. Write down the options you are considering and what feels good or bad about each one. Write down what your gut is telling you and what the facts are showing you. Most importantly, write down why you ultimately choose what you choose so you can look back later and see your thinking. This act of writing forces you to slow down and be honest with yourself, which alone makes your decisions better. You are not just recording, you are clarifying, and clarity is the friend of good choices. After you make your choice and time passes, the real magic of the journal begins. Go back after a few weeks, a few months, or even a few years and read what you wrote. Compare what you expected to happen with what actually happened, and notice the differences. Did things turn out better than you thought, worse, or just different? Was your fear about the decision justified, or did you worry about things that never came to pass? Were there factors you did not consider that ended up mattering a lot? These questions turn your past decisions into teachers, and every entry becomes a lesson you can use next time. You start to see patterns in your thinking, like that you always underestimate how much you will adapt, or that you overestimate how much others are judging you. Patterns are power because once you see them, you can change them. One of the most valuable things a decision journal gives you is a record of your growth over time. When you are in the middle of a hard choice, it is easy to feel like you are not making progress, like you are still the same person you always were. But when you look back at entries from years ago, you see how much you have changed. You see problems that once seemed huge now look small, and fears that once paralyzed you now seem silly. You see choices that turned out well and choices that taught you hard lessons, and you see how each one built the person you are today. This perspective is priceless because it gives you confidence that you can handle whatever comes next. You have survived everything life has thrown at you so far, and you have learned from most of it. Your journal is the proof, written in your own hand, that you are capable and growing. Your decision journal also helps you celebrate your wins in a way that you might not otherwise do. When a choice turns out well, you might just move on to the next thing without really acknowledging it. But when you write it down and come back to it later, you give yourself credit for the courage and wisdom you showed. You remind yourself that you are someone who makes good decisions, and that belief makes future good decisions more likely. This is not about bragging. It is about building a positive story about yourself that you can carry into hard times. When doubt creeps in, you can open your journal and see all the times you were brave and smart and right. You can let your past self give your present self the encouragement you need to keep going. The journal becomes a source of strength that is always with you, always reminding you of who you really are. There is one more benefit that might surprise you, which is that your decision journal becomes a gift to the people you love. Someday, your children or grandchildren might read it and see what it was like to be you, facing the struggles and joys of a real human life. They will see that you were scared sometimes, and that you made mistakes, and that you kept going anyway. They will learn that wisdom does not come from being perfect, but from paying attention and trying again. Your journal becomes a map for them, a guide to navigating their own hard choices when you are not there to help. It is a way of reaching across time and saying, I was here, I struggled, I learned, and you can too. That is a legacy that no amount of money or success can buy, and it starts with a simple notebook and the courage to write your truth. Chapter 13. Decisions and Identity, Becoming the Person Who Makes Great Choices. There is a secret about decisions that most people never realize, which is that every choice you make is also a choice about who you are. When you decide to tell the truth even when it is hard, you are becoming an honest person. When you decide to take a risk even when you are scared, you are becoming a brave person. When you decide to be kind even when you are tired, you are becoming a compassionate person. Your identity is not something you are born with and stuck in forever. It is something you build, one decision at a time. This is empowering because it means you are not a victim of your past or your personality. You are the architect of yourself, and every choice is a brick in the structure you are building. The question is not just what you should do, but who you want to become. Think about someone you admire, someone who seems to have qualities you wish you had. Maybe they are calm under pressure, or honest when it would be easier to lie, or generous when they have every reason to be selfish. Now think about how they got that way. Did they wake up one morning and just magically have those qualities? No, they built them over time, through thousands of small decisions that added up to a certain kind of person. Every time they chose calm over panic, they became a little more calm. Every time they chose honesty over lies, they became a little more honest. The same is true for you. Every decision you make is a vote for the person you are becoming. You are not just solving a problem in the moment, you are casting a ballot for your future self. This idea changes how you think about the decisions you face, especially the hard ones. When you are trying to decide whether to speak up about something wrong, you are not just deciding about that one situation. You are deciding whether you want to be the kind of person who speaks up or the kind who stays quiet. When you are trying to decide whether to help someone who cannot pay you back, you are deciding whether you want to be generous or guarded. The stakes are higher than they seem because each choice reinforces a pattern that becomes harder to break over time. If you stay quiet enough times, you become someone who cannot speak up even when you want to. If you help enough times, you become someone who helps without even thinking about it. Your decisions are shaping you, whether you realize it or not, so you might as well shape yourself on purpose. Let us look at how this works in practice with a common example, the choice to exercise or not. In the moment, it is just about whether you want to go to the gym or stay on the couch. But underneath that, it is about whether you want to be the kind of person who takes care of their body or the kind who lets themselves go. One workout does not make you fit, and one missed workout does not make you weak. But over time, the pattern of your choices creates a body and an identity that are hard to change. The person who goes to the gym regularly becomes someone who feels wrong when they miss a workout. The person who stays on the couch becomes someone who cannot imagine ever going to the gym. Each choice reinforces the story you tell yourself about who you are, and that story becomes your reality. This is why it is so important to make choices that align with the person you want to become, not just the person you have been. If you have always been someone who plays it safe, but you want to become someone who takes chances, you have to start making different choices. You have to take small risks that feel uncomfortable at first, until they start to feel normal. You have to prove to yourself, over and over, that you are capable of more than you thought. This takes time and patience, and you will not get it right every time. But every time you choose courage over safety, you are casting a vote for your new identity. Every vote counts, and eventually the election will be won, and you will look in the mirror and see someone new looking back. The beautiful thing about this process is that it works in both directions, for good and for bad. If you make choices that are small and fearful, you become a smaller and more fearful person over time. If you make choices that are brave and generous, you become braver and more generous. This means you have more power than you think, because you are not just living your life, you are creating yourself. Every decision is an opportunity to become more of who you want to be. The person you dream of becoming is not somewhere out in the future, waiting for you to arrive. That person is being built right now, in this moment, by the choices you are making. So choose wisely, not just for the outcome, but for the person you are becoming along the way. Chapter 14. Small wins, Big Momentum, How Daily Choices Build an Unstoppable Life. When you think about big successes, you probably imagine dramatic moments, huge risks, and life-changing decisions. But if you look closely at any successful person, you will see that their life was really built by thousands of small choices that hardly seemed important at the time. The choice to wake up early, to read one more page, to make one more call, to say no to one more distraction. These small wins add up over time, like drops of water that eventually fill an entire ocean. They create momentum, which is that feeling of being carried forward by your own actions, of things getting easier because you are already moving. Momentum is one of the most powerful forces in the world, and it is built entirely by small, consistent choices. You do not need one giant breakthrough. You just need to keep showing up and making small good choices every day. Think about how momentum works in physics. An object at rest stays at rest, and an object in motion stays in motion. The same is true for you when you are stuck and doing nothing. It feels impossible to start moving. But once you take one small step, the next step gets a little easier, and the next easier still. Soon you are moving so fast that nothing can stop you, and you hardly remember what it felt like to be stuck. This is why small wins are so important, because they are the first steps that get the momentum going. You do not have to change your whole life today, you just have to make one small good choice. That choice will make the next one easier, and before you know it, you are living a completely different life than the one you started with. Let us look at some examples of small wins that create big momentum over time. Choosing to drink a glass of water instead of soda might seem tiny, but do it every day and your health transforms. Choosing to save $5 instead of spending it might seem meaningless, but do it every day and you build a safety net that changes your life. Choosing to tell your partner one thing you appreciate about them might seem simple, but do it every day and your relationship deepens in ways you cannot measure. These choices are not dramatic. They do not make for good stories, but they are the real story of how lives are built. The people who seem lucky are often just the ones who made small good choices consistently for a long time. They built momentum while others were waiting for a miracle, and momentum became their miracle. There is a trap that catches a lot of people when they think about small wins, which is the trap of waiting for motivation. They think they need to feel inspired before they can make a good choice, so they wait and nothing changes. But motivation does not come before action, it comes during action. It is a result of moving, not a cause. When you make a small choice, even if you do not feel like it, something shifts inside you. You prove to yourself that you can do it, and that proof creates a tiny spark of motivation. That spark makes the next choice easier, and soon you have a fire burning that keeps you going without even trying. This is why action comes first, and feelings follow. Do not wait to feel like making a good choice, just make it, and let the feelings catch up later. The beauty of small wins is that they are available to everyone, no matter where you're starting from. You do not need money, connections, or talent to make a small good choice today. You just need to decide that you are going to do one thing, however small, that moves you in the right direction. Maybe it is making your bed in the morning, which gives you a tiny sense of order and accomplishment. Maybe it is smiling at a stranger, which connects you to another human being and lifts your mood. Maybe it is writing down one thing you are grateful for, which shifts your focus from what is wrong to what is right. These choices cost nothing and take almost no time, but they are the bricks that build the cathedral of your life. Each one matters, and each one adds to the momentum that will carry you through harder times. There is a famous story about a British cycling team that went from being one of the worst in the world to winning multiple championships. They did not do it through one big change, but through hundreds of tiny improvements, like better pillows for sleep, warmer clothes for warm-ups, and hand sanitizer to prevent illness. Each improvement was almost invisible on its own, but together they transformed the team completely. Your life is the same. You do not need one massive breakthrough. You just need to find the tiny improvements that add up over time. Look at your daily choices and ask where you could make a small positive change. Then make that change today and tomorrow and the next day. Before you know it, you will look back and realize you have built something unstoppable, one small win at a time. Chapter 15. Your Masterpiece, Crafting a Life with No Regrets. As you come to the end of this journey, it is time to look at the big picture, the canvas you have been painting on your whole life. Every decision you have ever made is a brushstroke on that canvas, some bright and bold, some faint and uncertain. Together, they form a picture that is uniquely yours, unlike anyone else's in the history of the world. The question is not whether your painting is perfect, because no painting ever is. The question is whether, when you stand back and look at it, you feel proud of what you see. Do you see a life that was lived with courage, with love, with honesty, with growth? Do you see someone who tried, who failed, who learned, who kept going? This is what matters in the end, not whether you got everything right, but whether you showed up and gave it your best. The idea of living with no regrets is often misunderstood, because people think it means never making mistakes. But that is impossible, and chasing it will only make you miserable. Living with no regrets really means making peace with your choices, even the ones that did not turn out well. It means understanding that every wrong turn taught you something you needed to learn, and that you would not be who you are today without them. It means forgiving yourself for being human, for not knowing then what you know now, for doing the best you could with what you had. Regret comes from wishing you had been someone else, someone braver, smarter, or better. But you were exactly who you needed to be to get here, and here is where your life continues. Make peace with your past so it does not steal your future. Think about the people near the end of their lives and what they say they regret most. It is almost never about the risks they took that did not work out. It is almost always about the risks they did not take, the words they did not say, the love they did not give. They regret playing small when they could have played big, playing safe when they could have played brave. This is the wisdom that comes too late for too many people, but you have the chance to hear it now, while you still have time. You can look at your life today and ask whether you are playing small or playing big. You can ask whether you are holding back or leaning in. You can ask whether you will look back with pride or with longing. The answer is in your hands, and it is written by your choices. So how do you craft a life with no regrets, starting from where you are right now? You start by getting clear on what matters most to you, not what society says should matter, but what your heart truly values. Is it connection with people you love? Is it creating something beautiful? Is it exploring the world? Is it making a difference? Is it all of these and more? Once you know what you value, you can align your choices with those values, day after day. You can choose connection over isolation, even when it is scary. You can choose creation over consumption, even when it is hard. You can choose adventure over comfort, even when it is uncertain. These choices, repeated over time, build a life that feels true to you. They build a life that, when you look back, will feel like it was yours, not someone else's. There is a practice that can help you stay on track, and it is as simple as asking yourself one question before big decisions. Ask, if I were on my deathbed looking back, would I be glad I made this choice, or would I wish I had done something different? This question cuts through all the noise and gets straight to what matters. It silences the voices of fear and ego and lets your deepest wisdom speak. It reminds you that life is short, that time is precious, and that you do not have forever to figure things out. You have right now, this moment, this choice. And you have the power to make it count, to make it one more brushstroke on a painting that will someday be complete. Let that question guide you, and you will never go far wrong. Your masterpiece is not something you will finish and then hang on a wall for others to admire. Your masterpiece is the living, breathing, changing work of art that is your life. It is still being painted, right now, as you read these words. Every choice you make from this moment forward is a chance to add something beautiful to the canvas. Every risk you take, every fear you face, every love you give, every lesson you learn, it all becomes part of the picture. You are the artist and the artwork, the painter and the painting. And you have everything you need to create something that, when you finally step back and look, will take your breath away. So pick up your brush, take a deep breath, and paint something magnificent. Conclusion. You have traveled through a lot of pages to get here, and I hope you feel different than you did when you started. We have talked about traps and tools, fears and facts, small wins and big visions. But none of it matters if you do not take the next step, which is to actually use what you have learned. Knowledge is only potential. It is action that turns potential into power. So do not just close this book and go back to your old ways. Pick one thing, just one, and practice it today. Maybe it is the pause before you react. Maybe it is the 10-10-10 rule. Maybe it is asking what your future self would do. Whatever it is, try it and see how it feels. Then try it again tomorrow and the next day until it becomes part of who you are. That is how mastery is built, not in one giant leap, but in one small step, repeated until it becomes a stride. The decisions you face will not get easier, but you will get stronger, and that is the whole point. Life will keep bringing you to crossroads, keep asking you to choose, keep testing what you are made of. But now you have a compass, a set of tools, and a community of voices inside you to guide the way. You know that fear is not a stop sign, that perfect is the enemy of good, that waiting is its own kind of choice. You know that you are not stuck being who you have always been, that every decision is a chance to become more of who you want to be. So go ahead, face your next big choice with your head up and your heart open. Trust yourself, because you have done the work and you are ready. Your story is still being written, and the next chapter starts now. Make it a good one.